The night she told me, we were sitting in her car outside Tesco on Abbeydale Road, and it was raining so hard the windows had gone completely white. She took my hand across the handbrake, and her voice didn't shake at all when she said it. Stage 3. Hodgkin's lymphoma. They'd caught it late, she said, but not too late. And I just sat there holding her hand in the dark, thinking, I will do whatever it takes. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't understand until 8 months later, when I was sitting in a completely different car, in a completely different kind of silence, was that she had chosen me specifically because she knew I would say exactly that. Her name was Rachel Hollis. Not a celebrity, just someone I'd known since we both worked at the same letting agency in Sheffield in 2019. We weren't best friends in the way people use that word carelessly. We were the kind of close that builds quietly, shared lunch breaks, long walks when one of us was going through something. The sort of friendship where you don't speak for 3 weeks and then pick up exactly where you left off. I trusted her the way you trust someone you've never had a reason not to. That evening in the Tesco car park was the 14th of March 2023. I remember the date because I wrote it in my journal that night. I wrote, Rachel has cancer. I am going to help her fight it. She told me the treatment wasn't fully covered. That the NHS waiting lists were too long for the specific protocol her oncologist had recommended, a private immunotherapy course at a clinic in Manchester, Wilmslow, a place called Broadfield Medical. She showed me a PDF on her phone. Letterhead, consultant's name, the whole thing. The total cost was listed at £42,000. She wasn't asking me for money, she was clear about that. She was just telling me because I'd asked why she seemed so tired. But I was already thinking about the fundraiser before she'd finished the sentence. I set up the Just Giving page on the 22nd of March. I wrote the description myself, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea that went cold, choosing every word carefully because I wanted it to sound like her without embarrassing her. I called it Rachel's Fight. Within 48 hours we had £4,200 from people I knew and people I'd never met. I remember crying at my laptop at 11:30 at night, genuinely moved by what strangers will do when they believe someone is suffering. Over the next 8 months, I organized a quiz night at the closed shop in Nether Edge that raised £2,800 in one evening. A sponsored walk along the Pennine Way in June, 14 of us, blisters and everything, £6,500. A bake sale at my sister's primary school. A silent auction. A raffle at Christmas that I spent 3 weekends organizing, writing to local businesses for prizes, driving around collecting donations. I gave £3,000 of my own money across multiple payments because there were gaps in the fundraiser and I couldn't stand the thought of Rachel's treatment being delayed by something as fixable as a shortfall. She was a convincing patient. She lost weight, I watched it happen. She came to the quiz night wearing a headscarf, looking pale, and people lined up to hug her. She talked about the side effects with a kind of careful composure that made her seem brave rather than broken, and everyone walked away from those conversations feeling like they'd witnessed something real. At one point her mother called me, a woman I'd met twice, to thank me for what I was doing for her daughter. I said it was nothing. I meant that sincerely. By the end of October, the total raised was £35,240. I sent her a message the night we crossed £35,000. I used a string of champagne emojis and wrote, "We did it. You're going to be okay." She replied with a voice note. She was crying. It sounded completely real. I played it back 3 times. And then I found out. It was a Tuesday in November. A woman named Gemma Farrell messaged me on Instagram. She said she'd seen the Just Giving page. She said she'd worked with Rachel at a warehouse job in Rotherham in 2021. She said Rachel had done the same thing there. Not cancer. A different illness, a kidney condition, some kind of rare failure, but the same structure. The fundraiser. The documents. The weight loss. Gemma had donated £400. She'd never been fully sure something wasn't right, but she hadn't known how to say it. She was saying it now because a mutual friend had shared the Just Giving page and she recognized Rachel's face. I sat with my phone in my hand for a long time. I called the Broadfield Medical Clinic in Wilmslow directly. I had the phone number from the PDF. The number didn't exist. I Googled the clinic. Nothing. I searched the consultant's name from the letterhead, Dr. Anand Priya, a name I had read and trusted without once questioning. There were no results. Not one. I went back to the Just Giving page and read my own description of Rachel's illness, and I felt something I don't have a clean word for. It wasn't just anger. It was the sensation of watching 8 months of your life turn transparent. I drove to her flat on Sharrow Vale Road on the Thursday evening. I hadn't told her I was coming. I'd spent 2 days running through every version of this conversation in my head, and none of them had prepared me for the way she answered the door, casual, warm, already smiling, saying my name like everything was ordinary. She was wearing jeans and a hoodie. She looked healthy. She looked completely, undeniably healthy. I don't know why that detail hit me harder than anything else, but it did. I asked her to let me in. She did. I sat down at her kitchen table, the same table I'd sat at probably 40 times in 3 years, having normal cups of tea in a normal friendship, and I put my phone face up between us with Gemma's message on the screen. I watched her face. I want to be honest about what I saw. It wasn't immediate guilt. It was calculation. A half second of it, quick and cold, before she decided on a different approach. She said the Rotherham thing was a misunderstanding. That Gemma had a grudge. That the clinic had closed, which was why the number didn't work, and she had all the paperwork at her parents' house. She could get it, she just needed a few days. She was talking quickly and her voice had that same steadiness it had always had, that quality I had always read as courage and was only now understanding was just practice. I let her finish. Then I asked her one question. I asked her to show me a single piece of NHS correspondence. One letter. One appointment card. Anything with a date and a consultant's name on it. Right now, from wherever in this flat it might be kept. The silence that followed lasted long enough that I could hear a television in the flat upstairs. She looked at the table. Then she looked at me. And the thing she said next, I've turned it over so many times since, was not an apology. She said, I needed the money, and I knew you'd help me if I asked the right way. That was it. That was what 8 months and £35,000 and hundreds of people's grief and generosity amounted to, in her own words. I needed the money, and I knew you'd help me. I stood up and left. I reported her to Action Fraud that night. I contacted Just Giving with everything I had. I spoke to a solicitor the following week who told me civil recovery was possible but unlikely to return the full amount given how it had been spent. The police opened an investigation in January. As of the last time I asked, it's still ongoing. Most of the money is gone. Some donors have been partially reimbursed from funds Rachel still had accessible. Most haven't. I haven't. I've thought a lot about the people who came to that quiz night and bid on silent auction lots and walked 14 miles in the rain because they believed in something. People who don't know Rachel, who will never know what happened, who just wanted to help someone survive. She took from them too. She took from all of us. I don't think I was naive. I think I was ordinary, the kind of person who, when someone they trust says they are dying, believes them. That's not a flaw. I've had to remind myself of that more times than I can count. But I'll tell you what I know for certain now. The most dangerous lie isn't the one that sounds impossible. It's the one that gives you exactly the chance to be who you already wanted to be.